All right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. Great to have all of you here with us today. Today is January 30th, 2024. This is episode 4 of 2024. And today we're going to focus on trait 19 of social needs. We're going to take a look at specifically the social needs that must be remembered. So we're going to take a look at how social needs show up in business and also what the dynamic is, again, as we continue to move into this new year. Now, before we jump in and get started, let's say hello to our panel. Let's start with Shelley. Hey, Shelley, welcome.
Hello. Good to be here. I don't have this trait, but my husband does, and I'm interested in hearing from people who do.
Yeah.
19. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Shelley. Great to have you here. And let's go to Banu. Hello, Banu. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. I don't have the 19 either, but had the chance to experience it, and I have the other end. So it's something I look for.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Banu. It's great to have you here. Welcome. And let's go to Boris. Hey, Boris, welcome.
Hey, Karen. Hey, everyone. Yeah, same as the others. I don't have the 19 and I don't have the 49, so I'm completely blank on that channel. So let's see what is the outcome. What are my social needs to get to know about?
Right, exactly. Well, thank you, Boris, for being here. Great to have you here. And I know Natalie is not feeling well, so she will not be joining us, and Chris may be joining us a little bit later. So let's dive in and let's take a look at our social needs. And I did want to give you a heads up tomorrow, if you are interested. We do have the first class free for the BG5 Foundation course. So would love to have you join us. If you have not studied BG5, you're interested in what it's all about, we do have the first class free tomorrow, January 31st. So would love to have you join us. Again, we have a lot of classes in different languages starting. We also have the certification in OC16 that just started, so you can still jump aboard. So would love to have you join us. All right, let's take a look at where trait 19 is. Now, if you don't have your chart, it's great to have your chart in front of you to see, do you have trait 19? And we can see that it's right here. It's in what we call drive and stamina. Drive and stamina is the root. This is part of the strength of resources. The strength of resources is the 1949. It is a tribal strength. So it is about the community. So we're going to be talking about and diving into this. When we take a look at larger groups, trait 19 is part of the management power base. And so we're going to take a look at how that comes into play as we take a look at trait 19. So let's dive into taking a look at trait 19 of social needs and the social needs that must be remembered. Why do they need to be remembered? So the life work themes we can see is the 4 ways, needs, and refinement. This is the very last trait, if you will, in this quarter of what we call transformation and purpose fulfilled through transformation. So one of the things that is interesting is that we have, in a sense, approach on one side, we have retreat on the other side. And we have this social needs on one side, the 19 and the 33 of being able to have some privacy and retreat. So this is, in a sense, the tipping point where we now move into purpose fulfilled through mind. And so part of the reason why it's the 4 ways is that, in a sense, approaching others is what we are moving into, and approaching others is a way of being able to wrap up what all of this transformation has been all about. So this week's global theme is we're taking a look at trait 19 of social needs approach, that all things are interrelated is apparent and manifested through the action of approach. So when we take a look at 19 is about approaching the other. You have specific needs and other people can fulfill that need. So you need to approach them, you need to ask them, you need to connect with them in order to get those needs met, right? So this is social needs, which we'll be talking much more about. It is grounded on the other side. We can see it's grounded by trait 33 of retreat and of privacy. This is active withdrawal and the transformation of a weak position into a strength. So this is, again, recognizing that you have needs and also being able to, in a sense, withdraw to see exactly what you need and be able to turn that from a weak position into a strength in approaching those that may have what you need. So with that, if we take a look at what trait 19 is in business, social needs in business, again, that all things are interrelated is apparent and manifested through action, the action of approach. So approach is also about wanting to be needed and needing to be wanted. This is all about the two essential human needs, which is access to basic resources like food and shelter, and also principles, the principles that feed our spirit and strengthen our families and also strengthen our communities as well. So when we take a look at this specifically in business, this is the need for contractual protection as part of the organizing philosophy of a group or an organization. So it is about contracts. This is also where our contracts lie for our marriage contracts. This is where contracts lie also in religion, in a sense. The need for that contractual or way of believing in our in a religious way as well. But really, when we're taking a look at business and organization, it is this need for this contractual protection. And it's the sensitivity to what everyone needs and agrees to in working together. So this is how much do people get paid? This is what is expected in getting that pay. This is what are the benefits, etc. So this is signing on the bottom line of what you are actually agreeing to. Now, when needs are not being met, the other side is trait 49. Again, this is the strength of resources. This can also be the source or the pressure or the fuel that drives revolutions. And revolutions happen when specific needs are not being met. And we see a lot of, in the world, a lot of social upheaval at the moment too, where needs are not being met and people are starting to stand up for their rights. And this is part of what drives it. When people's needs are not being met, it can lead to revolution. So this is what trait 19 is all about. So all of us in our panel do not have trait 19, but we do have a guest here that does have trait 40 or trait 19 in their design. So we're going to start with Tim because you do have trait 19, and we would love to hear how trait 19 shows up in your design. So Tim, let's start with you.
Hey, so you'll see it's both 19.4 and both my conscious Jupiter, I guess. Yeah, and my subconscious, unconscious moon driving force. So that's the team player, which is today, actually. Line 4. I forget what the do we have the exact text for the line? I should have that in front of me.
I've got it. I have it here. If you want me to read it out, it's the same as what my husband has.
Go ahead and read it, Shelley.
It's an individual approach which attracts and accepts cooperation. So the elevation is the power and energy for outward activity and the ability to accept others as long as they can keep up, a driving force that can benefit the whole group, the energy to seek out and exalt in the company of others. Excuse me. The challenge can be attractive and cooperative, but a tendency to dissatisfaction with the contribution of others. a sensitivity energized by the limitation of others.
Yeah, so I'm definitely very much a team player, but I certainly do have judgment form pretty quickly about people who don't pull their weight and um don't do what they say they're gonna do. So there is that. But I guess in general, from the 19 stepping back from the line, you could say that in business, I have struggled with getting the resources in the form of capital that I need to really expand and grow and succeed to the levels that I have wanted. I've always, up till now at least, been operating on fumes and pulling, off magic in the fumes, but still, I am true comfortable funding of my projects has eluded me thus far, and like full profitability. At one point, I had a very successful juice cleanse business on the surface level. I was doing close to $1 million a year in sales, but I wasn't profitable. And then I got knocked out by the recession. But anyhow, not to blame things on external events. It was certainly me too. But yeah, so that I have a deep yearning for that 49, which has gone unfulfilled so far. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, to know what is needed and what you want and what you need, again, it's almost like this is tribal. You
Yeah.
can't do it alone. You have to reach out. You have to approach others. That's part of the approach. And approaching those that have the resource, that's why the bargain needs to be created, or an agreement is met, which is part of what the tribe is all about, so that it benefits both sides. And in many respects, I think in the business world, this has been taken advantage of to some extent, with some businesses where people are agreeing to just getting a paycheck, but are in many respects are also sacrificing themselves as well. So this is just something to be aware of in that connection. And the 49 is needed in order to create that balance and create be able to get the resources that you need. And again, if the resources are not there, sometimes it can often lead to a revolution, at least in the tribal sense, if people's needs aren't really being met.
Yeah, I very much know what I need. If someone was to fund me right now, I'd be off, out of the gates running. And I also look at it as it's similar to my 2 without the 14. I have a very strong vision of where things should go, but there's not much gas in the tank.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Tim. And thank you for being so open in sharing that also, because again, this can be a struggle. Like you said, having both the 19 and the 2, so having a huge vision and knowing what you need, but not having necessarily the resources that you need. And this is part of why we need to work together. We within our own designs, we don't have everything we need. We're not designed to operate independently. We can operate as individuals, but we all need each other. And it's when we work together and when we work and we collaborate together, it should be a win for all of us. And especially in business, when we can connect and work with the right people, it can rise all of us up. And I think this is one of the big difference between individual human design and BG5 is BG5 is really, yes, we have to be our individual self, but we also need to know how to approach and how to connect and also how to work with others. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Tim. And Shelley, you said that your husband also has trait 19 as well. I'd love to hear some stories or what you see in him having trait 19.
Yeah, this is actually really great because it's helped me look at it one more time. His 19 is actually his grounding balance. So this is part of his life work. He's got the 33 as his core essence. And so he's done this as long as I've known him. And it's easy for him to go and approach others. He knows what people need and he knows who he has to approach to help get what he needs. And what I find is really interesting, he's been in two main fields the whole time I've known him. One is in sports and in coaching kids and adults. And that's kind of the spirit of things. It's something that really lifts his spirit and others' spirit. But the core business that he's always owned is in financial planning. So he spends a lot of time coaching and teaching people how to protect their resources and grow them and invest them so that they when they retire, they will still have the basic resources like food and shelter and enough money to do things that feed their spirit. So that's been his focus the whole time I've known him. And so it's really interesting because I've watched him. He's also a 4-6, so he's very influential. He's collaborative. He needs to go out and work with other people. And I was going to share his design, but that might be hard to do now. He has the 214 as well. So he is able to attract the resources that are needed. Once he finds the right people to work with, he has no problem generating the resources by helping everybody focus on where they're going, and has the power of almost a full penta in his design. And so I've watched him build pretty big businesses pretty quickly, but to his own detriment, as I've talked about before. But it's just really interesting that everything with his core essence and his life work being here, this helps me really understand. And you mentioned that it's balanced by the 33 of retreat. I've also watched that he's very social and loves to network, but he also needs a lot of time alone. And especially in his, older years here, his wisdom years, he's taking more and more advantage of that. I think when he was younger, he didn't feel like he could retreat, but needed to. And as he got older, he realized, no, it's really important for me to retreat. I need to go be by myself to sort out what all of this means so that I can then be influential with people who are trying to, get their basic resources and needs met. So it's been really interesting to really understand this about him at a much deeper level. So
yeah, beautiful example. And again, you can also see how this shows up then in his life work, because that's exactly what he's doing, is really supporting people and making sure that they are grounded in their needs and having their needs met beyond retirement as well. So really beautiful example,
yes.
Shelley. Yeah, thank you so much. And Banu, you don't have trait 19, but you do have the 49, which is the harmonic trait on the other side. So I'm curious how this shows up for you.
Yes, so 49 of principles is it's, I think, although like they face each other, is so different from the 19 itself in its way. Having principles for me has been like a major thing. I align with people based on, are we on same principles or not? And if we're not, or I feel like things are going in a direction where the principles are not being held highly, then there can be a revolution for me. And looking for the 19, I think understanding social needs and what everybody needs. Because I'm looking for that, I think I might have given, along when I was in corporate life, I might have given my team room to actually convey that to me in an open way. So, I would know what they need, and then I could really, given that it's aligned to my principles, take it to the higher level to get them what they need.
Yeah. And do you find, because I'm interested with the kind of contracts and the you know, the connection where the 49 can kind of provide for the needs, but the 49 also, when we take a look at the big picture, is also responsible for the firing as well. So it's either accepting, kind of like what you talked about, it's either accepting things if it's aligned with your principles, or releasing it. In the business world, it can be firing someone if they're not aligned with principles.
Yeah. So my experience, yes, if things didn't work out with somebody, it's not personal. Yes, every organization, when we go into bigger organizations, like an OC16, the why, it has a different vibe, and every organization has its dynamics and its needs. So if a person does not fit perfectly into that from a principles perspective, from a performance or expectations perspective, then that's what needs to be done. That's the job of a person working for that company, because that's why they hire you. Yes, you're there to serve the bigger organization, not your personal beliefs, actually. So yeah, that part has been okay for me, as long as it was aligned and I knew I was doing the right thing for the company. Yeah, letting go of people. That included that part as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Banu. And Boris, I know, like myself, you don't have either 49 or 19, but I'm curious if you've worked with someone or anything that's just kind of come to mind in taking a look at this 1949.
It's actually interesting to listen to Tim before and now what Banu said, because this kind of social needs in a tribe, that like, how do we get along to make sure that everybody has a kind of a fair share and this contractual stuff? I never had it. And I was like thinking, why? And yeah, nothing there. And for me, it's like it reminds me on the Maslow pyramid, like the base layer, which is like security, making sure that everybody has shelter, food, and things. I think that is the layer, and that's why for me it comes out as well out of drive and stamina. It's my own explanation, linking it to Maslow. What I was just thinking, I have on the other side from the energy resource over to the spleen now.
Yeah. The survival instinct. Yeah.
Survival instinct. Thank you. I was just mixing the word. 2750, which is the nourisher, which is like as well a kind of supporting and nurturing, but in a different way. So I was like thinking, I have that, but it's in comparison to the 19, it's really protecting, kind of defending what is there. It's not making sure that everybody has the same. It's like, I'm here to defend the group, the tribe, the family, but whether they get the fair share of everything, like food, food daddy comes first. And I must say, like, yeah, it was always like that. If there is good food, I take the first plate, I have the biggest portion of it, and things like that. That is where I was like just thinking, okay, there is something in me to nurture, to support, but without like looking at that everybody gets a fair share. I make sure that everybody has something, but whether that is equally shared or not, I kind of don't care, if I must admit. So it's something I just popped in my mind.
Yeah. And again, very interesting how, when you have it, there is a particular feel or perspective. And if you don't have it, there's a different feel and perspective. Again, we're not designed to have everything. And that way we can also see the different ways that it works and the different perspectives. This is very interesting because this 1949 is also something, as we move into the era of the individual, is breaking down. And oftentimes people are concerned of like, well, what if it's breaking down? What does that mean for me? For us as humans, it's still going to be the same. But as we continue and we move forward into the future, contracts, at least this is my guess with it breaking down, we're going to not need contracts in the same way that we've needed contracts in the past. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is what we're moving towards is, in a sense, really working with the people that we like, that we trust, that we know, that in a sense, there's more of a deeper bond or connection, the 59, which is intimacy, where it's not as structured, if you will, of a contract that we'll need moving forward into the future than what we have now. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I just find that that interesting that this is one of the things that's breaking down as we move into the era of the individual. Yes, Tim.
It could also mean that there's really going to be no possibility of enforcing contracts
in
the future.
Yeah.
Except
could be that
force.
as well.
But I mean, extra legal, basically.
Right. Yeah. Good point. So I'm curious, we have several other of you here that are here in our Zoom room. I'm curious if any of you have the 19, or if you don't have the 19, if you've had any experience with someone with the 19, or your perspective on the 19, or you might have the 49 like Banu, and you may have, in a sense, that relationship to the 19. So I'm curious if anyone has that. Yeah, Julie.
Hi.
Yeah, Julianne.
I have the 1949.
Oh, great.
And it's 19.5 is my grounding balance, conscious grounding balance. Yeah, and everything you've been talking about really makes a lot of sense. I'll put my camera on so I can say hi.
Yeah.
So, hi. It makes so much sense. Yeah, I'm hugely passionate about it. I think I don't mean to be often, but I am. I mean, I went to have a meeting with my daughter's college today, talking about this very thing, about what to expect. What is to be expected from them in these circumstances? Will they be able to fulfill their roles? And what exactly would they like my daughter to do? It, in a very kind way, but that's really what I went to find out. And I find that my presence there changes something. I knew then that even though, because I went and I said to my daughter, it's okay, I'm just going to go, but what you'll find is this will filter through. And you'll get the same kind of support from the other teachers as well. I bet you will. So we still have to see. But I did it in a really kindly way. But it's something that I'm very aware of, and I kind of hope to. I use it as a support for everyone, so that the whole group. I'm really passionate about it. I'm an emotional advisor, so it is my weight, and so yeah, it's a full-on thing. So everything that you've been saying is really helpful to me, and I appreciate it. The more information I can get about that particular channel, the better. I love what you've all been saying. Benu was talking about the 49, which was really interesting as well. It's fascinating. You can also see always see, for me anyway, I love to hear it from other people, because I can see different parts of myself that I couldn't actually see before. So yeah, I hope that's
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Julianne. I love what you said, because you can see that, again, a lot of us don't have it, but when you have it, it is something that, like you said, you're very passionate about, and you want to make sure that in this case, in your example, that your daughter's needs are being met, and
everyone
how
else
that's going
in the
to look.
group. Yeah, and it's so easy. I don't need to say much. I just need to be there, and it works. And I've been there, and I'm in there, and as a supportive. I'm a counselor as well, so I'm there in a supportive way. So I was giving you the factual situation, but I didn't say it like that. I'm there as a support for the lecturers, for the teacher. I go in my support mode, and I find that just being there, they kind of think of everything, that they can do to support. They just think of things. I think, yeah, that's really great. We can do that.
And this is a beautiful example, Julianne, of what you just shared, is that just in being in the presence, right? You activate that need for the others to also share, again, in a sense, what the contract is. How are the needs going to be met? What is it going to look like? How is that support going to show up? And I can hear in just what you're speaking how important supporting others is, even if you're just there and you're just present. Like, that's the power of our designs. It's not that you had to, quote unquote, do anything, but your presence, right? Your nonverbal presence said it all. And being there also brings up all of those things to make sure that those needs are being met. I love that.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's kind of just you wait, and then I can feel it, and I can feel it working. It's quite magical in that respect. So thank you for letting me say that, because it is something that I love. I've learned it can have some really difficult situations. Obviously, there's difficulties of it, and I've been working with it for a long time. I've known about it for a while. So you know, it's my joy now.
Yeah. What are some of the difficulties? I'm curious.
When you don't realize how powerful and strong it is, and I also I'm a 5-1, and so I can, you know, accidentally give the wrong message at the wrong time, and I wasn't invited, so you know, it can so I tend to not talk so much, because then when I do, it's super powerful, and people suddenly start to want to cross T's and check everything. But I can just stand in a queue and get somebody to come and help someone who needs help. I love to do that. I can just direct everything quietly, just really quietly. So sometimes if I'm not in a role, for instance, if I haven't got a particular role, for me personally, that can go quite badly. If I feel passionate about something, I haven't got the role, I wasn't invited, then just being there can be kind of difficult and awkward, and I could be burnt at the stake, you know. So
yeah,
I've learned.
and beautiful example of you know, both sides as well. I mean, you're really present, and I can hear in what you were sharing, you know, you're really present to the needs of others. Even if you're standing in line and, you know, standing in the queue and waiting in line, you can sense that people need something and need that support. And so being ultra sensitive to the needs of others and wanting to make sure that those needs are being met. And sometimes it can be difficult, just like what Banu was saying, that you know, if needs aren't being met, you want to create a revolution. You want to, you know, make sure that they're being met, and if they're not being met, it can be very upsetting, and
That's a
that can.
difficult point. Yeah, she had the spot on there, because you know, you can't work with people without the right. I find it really hard to work with people who haven't got the same values, principles. So I haven't been in Banu's position, but it is one of those things that I feel very passionate about, and it was helpful to hear that.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Julianne. I really
Thank
appreciate
you, Karen.
you participating. It's really fun. Yeah, Shelley.
Oh, thanks, Julie, for all of what you've said. You've sparked a whole bunch of things from me, because even when we don't have that strength defined, when it's wide open, like it is in my design, we have a sense that all of those things are present and they all exist. But for me, they're not consistent or focused. They're just everywhere. And I think when it's defined, you have like a laser focused way your energy can operate. Whereas when it's wide open, we gain some wisdom around being able to see how many different ways those principles show up, and how many different ways people can get their needs met. And just having that open viewpoint on it can sometimes help. I know I find myself in situations a lot where people are fighting over their principles, where they don't see eye to eye, and I'm able to understand and accept both of their principles and try to help them find a way to meet in the middle or understand each other. So that just jumped out to me, that openness, when we don't have it defined, and it can also be a shadow at times, where if, like now, the 19 is in transit, and we can feel that more in our design, they put a bit of pressure on the 49. We might find ourselves trying too hard to find our principles, or trying too hard to get clear on our principles, or confused about what our principles are, that kind of thing. So I just wondered if Boris, if you noticed anything like that as well. I know you have that same openness there, whether, because everything you're saying, it's not like I don't have those concerns or interests as well. And I wonder, I have the 27 and I have the 45. There's other elements of caring and wanting to take care of people in both those traits. So recognizing that these kinds of things can show up in different ways, but having the 1949 defined makes it a really specific, focused way that people are trying to get basic needs met, and following principles for the benefit of all in a supportive way. Anyways, don't know if any of that made any sense. It was just what's there.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Shelley. And yes, Boris.
Quite interesting what Shelley just mentioned. It's reminds me of situations like this, social needs and not having it. And whenever you have an open function, or traits or whatever, you might be conditioned. And I think that is what I observed, that I'm very, I would call it, vulnerable in the area of social needs, and kind of supporting, donating and things like that, where people would come to me and immediately like, yeah, what can I give? Where can I help? And da. So I'm like overswept with these social needs. And then I do and commit to something that I possibly didn't want to do, or want to have further information first before doing. But then I kind of commit early and do. And that is something afterwards I regret. And that is the energy that I feel, this kind of strange energy that is coming to me, that is not mine, where suddenly something happens within me that is, something is rattling. Sometimes I can't explain it. And then it's in the meantime, really, I go back to my decision-making strategy. And that was one of the questions as well in the chat. Decision-making strategy, authority in my body. For me, it's the gut, instinctive gut. If I don't feel the spark, it's a no. That's as easy as it is. And then it kind of protects me against this conditioning. And I can sort out, okay, is this now conditioning that is happening? Is this my mind kicking in and doing something to me? Or is it really the gut is saying no, and the mind wants to interfere? Yeah, but we should, or I should, or whatever. And then it's as well like, no, it's mind game. Body decided no.
Yeah.
I think this is something just that Shelley's comments triggered. Yeah. Anu?
Yeah.
Yeah, just in relation to that question that Heidi posted around, or maybe, I don't know if people are seeing it. So she asked, wondering if people using strategy and authority, so your decision making, to find individual spirit expression in the work they love, they begin to be more aligned and will not want to stay in an organization if it does not fit them or the organization. So this is what she put down. And you speaking, Boris, just sparked something I wanted to share that relates to the principles as well. So when I decided to leave the latest organization that I worked for, the principles part was an important factor, I think, that kind of moved me in the way to decide to leave the company, because the company's principles were changing and they were no longer that much aligned with my principles of managing people in such a company. So with everything going on, lots of layoffs, putting more pressure on people to do more work, like they take somebody else's job on top of their work, and just letting go of people like that at short notice and doing it very frequently. and then being able to manage the team that's left to get to targets, to feel like family, to feel like we belong. It's just harder, I guess. These days, I think this might be relevant for a lot of people in the business world because it's something very major that's happening. So my principles there were a major factor in me deciding not to stay. And then they gave me an invitation actually to make a choice. And then this was very important part of it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Banu. Yes, Boris.
Oh, you bounced me an idea in my head. It's for me exactly the opposite side of the body, the values, which is like the 50, where the values of the company that I was working for and my values were not in sync anymore. And that is what drove me out of the company and made me resign from the company. And that is really the first time I actually felt my human design, my BG5 design. When I remember I took that decision to resign, I had like all the forms already filled and I was hesitating to decide. And I was sitting and hovering with my finger above the mouse button to send, and I didn't do it. And at that moment, there was a video that I was watching. If you have taken a decision, do it. And I hit the button, and it was really the first time in my life that my whole body like moved upwards. I was like opening up. I could breathe. I could like feel it. And it was such a relief. And that was, I think, realistically, my first ever real true gut decision. I couldn't explain it why I do it. I couldn't explain why I resign. I could like afterwards find the reasons that it was like based on different values. The decision was my gut. And to allow the gut to decide for such an important thing to resign after 23 years in a company was really breathtaking. And since then, I follow my human design BG5 path. And I think that is possibly what Heidi as well mentioned, that if people would follow that, connect to the inner knowledge that is there, and take that and drive decisions based on that. And like point, I leave the imagination to everybody and how much better or different the world could be from like the way we are living, the way we are working, the way we drive business. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautifully said, Boris. Yeah, Shelley.
Yeah, and it's great listening to both your stories because I recognize that I stayed too long in a place because I couldn't make the decision to leave. Of emotionally defined decision making and didn't really understand how that worked back then. And the ultimate thing that can happen is I literally burned myself out completely and was forced to leave. Life has a way of showing you the door, even if you can't, if you're not following your decision making, life will help you along and it may not be very comfortable. So, when you are following your decision making and can trust it, even when it doesn't make sense and it doesn't feel rational or reasonable and you have no explanation for it, being able to trust your body intelligence that it knows what you need and it'll get you there one way or the other. So just a really great example, contrasting too, that when, Boris, you made the decision, you trusted it. Same with you, Banu, and look at the path it's taken you on. I'm on the similar path, but I had to do it the hard way. So it's I have lots of experience with that. If anybody needs help.
Yes.
And I was actually only afterwards that I started. 2 days after I resigned, my wife came to me and put my rave chart on the desk and said, look,
you're
that's
kidding.
you. And that was the moment I was intrigued by that information. I was like, how come? And
Wow.
rereading all my like profile and things like that, so public role, it just fits. It was like a map of my life that was in front of me. And I was like, how the heck is that possible? And that is so true. It's so me. It's just like it's my purpose on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And that is the awesome thing about it.
Yeah. And that's what was really thrilling for me too, is because I had just found human design and BG5 just before, as I was going through sort of everything falling apart at work. I was just starting to see myself, but didn't really understand a lot of it yet. I hadn't started the training yet. But it was giving me some insight. And then when I looked back and you look at the cycles and the stuff Karen shares with us in the cycles, looking at my design, I had the potential for meeting the straw that broke the camel's back. In other words, it was almost being able to look at my whole life laid out that way was, oh, okay, I get what happened. It all was intentional. It happened on purpose. And here I am now. So it's almost like sometimes we have to experience some things to really get the learning. And it is always only potential. So once you're aware of it and you see the potential there, you're aligned with your design and following your decision making, and more likely to have awareness around those situations that might catch you, and give you some more awareness and opportunity to avoid those difficult things.
Yeah, beautifully said, Shelley. Wow, incredible discussion. And we can also see that how important it is that ultimately our needs are met, whether we have it defined or not. What they've our panel's also been sharing, along with all of you, is, again, if the needs aren't met, sometimes the revolution is quitting. If things are not aligned with what your principles are, that tribe, that business, that connection may not be correct for you anymore. And that revolution can be quitting. It can be leaving. It can be looking for something else that really truly is aligned. And I think as we move into the era of the individual, this also becomes more important, that we are truly aligned to who we are individually, and that we're working with other individuals and connecting with other individuals that are aligned with our principles, that are aligned with our vision. If you're working for a company and the values, the principles are not aligned, it's going to become harder and harder and harder to work for that organization, if it's not aligned with you, and if it's not aligned with your own principles, and if it's not providing what you truly need. So again, we can see how important this 19 is in the needs. And also, again, if those needs aren't being met, that something needs to shift, something needs to change, or like Shelley, you end up being burned out, or, like Boris or Banu, you realize that that things are just not aligned anymore. And it's time to move forward. And, as Shelley said, just sort of the universe's nudging of, okay, it's time to move on. And sometimes we can also see that in the natural cycle of things. So it's interesting that, again, what grounds the 19 is also retreat, to really look back in the past and see, is this really working for me? Have my needs actually been met or not within a team, an organization, or a group that you're working with? And if not, maybe it's time for a revolution. So with all of that, thank you also for your participation as well. It's been amazing, everything that everyone has shared. And yes, Banu.
Oh, just as we are signing off, I wanted to share, because Boris and I were talking about our past experience in the corporate world,
Yes.
and we are running a webcast actually on the 1st of February. We're going to run 2 sessions, one for European time zone. So is it going to be 12, Boris, Central Eastern time? Same time? Yes. So we run one in the afternoon and one in the evening. And it's about applying BG5 in the real world. And, solutions to business problems that are out there. So if anyone wants to come join us, we would love to have you there with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be incredible. Again, there is 2 different times that you can sign up for. If you go to bg5solutions.com, there's also a pop-up there that will allow you to sign up for the webinar. It's a free webinar to really get to know, and really bringing in Boris's wisdom, Banu's wisdom, and really taking a look at how to transform businesses, and based on their own experience, what is necessary to move things forward. And Shelley just put the link as well in the chat as well. It's human potential at the core. And that's going to be really essential for businesses moving forward. So I invite you to attend their webinar. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And so that is this Thursday. And again, there's 2 separate times, and you can sign up at the BG5solutions.com. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Banu, and I hope you will all be able to attend as well. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, I encourage you to check out the first course free of the foundation course, which is tomorrow. And you can go to the BG5 Business Institute and go to the foundation course and sign up for the first class free, which is tomorrow. You can sign up for a strategy session from any of the instructors here at the BG5 Business Institute. And again, a huge thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. It makes it so fun, and it makes it so rich, especially since none of us on the panel had the 19. It was so great to hear from both Tim and Julianne about your experience. And thank you also, Heidi, for your questions. And it has been absolutely brilliant. So if you are here live and you feel comfortable turning on your camera, we would love to see you. And once we have everybody's cameras on, let's go ahead and unmute yourself and say goodbye. And we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.